Now, then you've seen this article that SPH is looking to sell its building to a joint venture with Keppel Corp subsidiaries, and together they're going to develop and run data centers. Now, why in the world is SPH trying to do a data center where it's a media company? Today we'll be discussing that part of it. But the main story for today is data centers. Data centers as laymen, we only imagine it as a building with a lot of high-speed computing, a lot of networks, etc., etc. And it's largely true. Today I'll be discussing a few parts. What has SPH tried before in its past ventures, and why is it keen on this data center venture? The second part I'll be touching on is SPH, why it's been so gloomy, at least for the last 3-4 years. The third part I'll be touching on is why a transformation is difficult. I'll be comparing it against Microsoft, which against all odds has transformed its company from a gloomy company to a high growth company. Is that something that SPH can potentially replicate? And lastly, I'll be touching on is a value trap. What is the definition of value trap? And why the odds are that SPH is a very, very likely value trap. So if this topic interests you, continue watching on. Now, data centers is this buzzword right now in terms of the investment space. In a lot of ways, it's affiliated to e-commerce growth, it's affiliated to the growth of cloud infrastructure. Let me pull this up by Keppel DC REIT, which is also a listed company in Singapore. They focus on data centers, and this is what they have to say. Data centers have benefited from this cloud infrastructure growth of almost 20% year on year. Now, this amazing growth, this amazing demand side. So anybody that participates in the supply side may see profitability, at least for a short period of time. That is why perhaps SPH is keen to get into the action. Singapore is one of the most competitive data center markets. There's a lot of tech companies like Facebook setting up HQ here. Let me put this article for you to see also. There's a lot of potential for Singapore to build up more data center infrastructure. But nonetheless, today's discussion is about this building, 82 Genting Lane. If you have been to the Kallang area, the Aljunied area, you may have passed by this building before. I've done so myself. And 82 Genting Lane building, it's going to be redeveloped into a data center together with Keppel Corp subsidiaries. Now the question is, SPH, are they interested to develop it long term, like a transition to build this business up big? Or are they looking to simply develop this building and flip it to maybe even Keppel DC REIT? That's anybody's guess, but I think there's a good chance that they can actually develop and just flip it away, since Keppel Corp is his partner in this JV. There's every chance they could just flip it away. But nonetheless, SPH has been investing into property assets for the longest period of time. Let me pull up a few examples for you to see what it has been trying. This is not its first adventure to buying properties and doing something different. This in April 2019, they've actually invested in UK student housing. And then another adventure in October 2019, they've actually invested into Japan's aged homes. And after that, in November 2019, they've actually bought some Australian shopping malls. Now, there's so much property investments thrown out all over the place by SPH. And that's really because its media business has been in such a gloomy state. In the next part of the video, I'll share with you exactly what is happening in its core business. That is why it's keen to invest and develop new streams of revenue. Now, good news or bad news, I've actually taken a lot of time to collate all this information for you to make informed decisions as to whether SPH is a company you are keen to invest into or not. So smash the like button so that more people can see valuable content like this. Now, SPH has actually seen a very terrible performance over the last few years from its media company. That's why it's been actually cutting jobs, laying off people. This article shows that it's actually cut 70 jobs in terms of its media group. And that's not the first time it's been cutting jobs already. Why is that the reason? Let me pull up some data points for you to quickly see. This over here is a newspaper circulation. I'm not too sure if you're still reading newspapers. For me, I used to read when I was much younger, but nowadays everything is on the internet. We are reading newspapers, physical copies, much less than before. And on the left-hand side in the red box, you will see that every avenue of his newspaper has been seeing declines from 2018 and 2019. Be it Business Times, Straits Times, 联合早报, 联合晚报. Every avenue is declining. That is pretty alarming if you are an investor. And on the right-hand side, what do we realize? This shows for multi-year segment. You realize that again, multi-year wise, it's been dropping since 2016. Massively, year by year, it's been declining. So we'll be asking, is it still profitable, this media, this newspaper business? Of course, it still is. If we pull up the 2019 annual report, we realize that in terms of the media business, it's still delivering a profit of about $54 million. But you may think, hey, 51 million seems quite good. But if you compare it to the property segment, right now it's relying a lot on property to drive its profitability as a business. The media business right now, 54 million, is only a fraction. You may be thinking, what was it like 10 years ago? I've done the hard lifting for you. So let's pull up some data points from 10 years ago. This over here shows the revenue composition. Back in 2010, 55% of revenue comes from advertisement. And what did it drive in terms of profits? This is actually in the 2010 statement. You realize that profits from the newspaper and magazine segment comes up with $364 million. What do you realize in 2019? It's only left with $54 million. This is 364, declining all the way to 54 million. That is a massive evaporation of profitability from this media segment. And it is something that may not be reversing anytime soon. That's why SPH share price, let me pull this up for you to see also, has been declining for the last 10 years. Investors know that the media business, if it's the core business, is declining, is decaying rapidly. And there seems to be no way that SPH is able to address that. Once things are digital, the competition can come from international newspapers such as Wall Street Journal, such as SCMP. There's a lot of media outlets that people can get news from, and they may not subscribe to Straits Times digitally also. So the next part I'll be touching on is how can it possibly transform business? It's not easy, but I've actually found Microsoft to be a classic example of transformation. And let's move on to that segment. Now, if you like business discussion, look for other videos in this playlist. I'll actually pull up a couple for you to see. Those may also interest you. But today's discussion is about SPH and what can it do to transform its business. And a key example can be looking at is Microsoft. Microsoft used to have a cash cow. Microsoft Office, everybody used to have to purchase license for it. But Microsoft Office has actually transformed its business purely from Microsoft Office to cloud computing. Cloud computing is right now one of its highest growth business segments. And Microsoft has a new CEO, Satya. Satya has came on board and he has really transformed Microsoft business. It's a classic business story. And what has he actually changed? I actually done some heavy lifting for you. So this is something that we can read together. Microsoft actually had understood that moving forward, they had to change their business model, collaborate with developers a lot better, rather than develop things on their own and sell it. So in this purple segment, I've actually highlighted under his leadership, these things have actually changed. They've actually remained in that market, but actually changed their approach to serving customers. In addition, he's been acquiring companies, big and small, and those were to fill its overall objective of moving and transiting towards cloud services. Satya used to head Microsoft's cloud computing segment when it was still in infancy. That's why when they decided to change direction, he was appointed as CEO. And what can we see in Microsoft's share price? Over the last 5 years, I've highlighted in this purple segment, it's spiked up rapidly. It's changed from a cash cow, decaying company to a company that is deemed to be high growth. That is a fantastic story. Is that something that SPH can replicate? I actually think the odds are quite low. This is actually from its CEO's statement. This is actually in November 2019. When grilled on the prospects of his media business, he's actually assured investors that media business is core to them, even though it's decaying. He's also briefly mentioned they are pursuing innovation and strengthening management benchmark in advertising and sales. Now, anyone doing advertising right now is not looking to newspaper to advertise for its first avenue. They're looking to do digital advertising. So I'm not too sure what exactly is its plans. That's why on a gut feeling basis, I have every fear that SPH could be a value trap, and that's the next segment of today's discussion. Now, when you buy shares in a particular company, you're exposed to a company-specific risk, which means if its operations do badly, your share price performance is likely to languish. That's why if you're not too familiar with value investing, diversify, buy a fund instead. Avoid company-specific risk. But just in case you're still keen to invest in SPH, let's have this discussion. Why exactly is SPH possible candidate as a value trap? Let me pull this up by Investopedia. It mentions a few things. The first part is a value trap always appears to be cheaply priced, same as a good value investment. The key difference is a value investment idea recovers over time. Its operations recover. It's only a temporary setback. Whereas a value trap's operations decay over time, and in consequence, its performance in share price languish and drops further after you have invested. Now, if you're a new investor, this is something that you have not heard of, take note of it, jot it down, because this is a classic risk that many investors get themselves stuck into. But let's have this discussion again. What exactly is SPH 10 years ago and what exactly is it now? 10 years ago, let me pull this up for you to see. Newspaper circulation rate was going up. from 1992 all the way to 2010. If you see all these charts, it's been growing up year on year. And in addition, SPH has a monopoly on this media business, which is fantastic. That's why back in 2009, if you have invested at SPH at $2.72, it's possibly a good value investment idea. A good monopoly, a growing operations, and then at that share price, it's probably cheap. But fast forward to today, the share price is half of it. Let me pull up for you to again see. This is the share price now at $1.30, and then its P ratio at 11.11 is looking cheap, but possibly a danger as a value trap. Why? This is some of the things we've mentioned before. This is to reinforce it. Segment operating revenue. The blue bar, as you can see over there, it's its media business. Since 2015, whereby it's close to $1 billion, it's been declining year on year. Right now, the media business only brings in about 500 plus million in terms of revenue. And as we've discussed in this video already, the profit margin has shrunk tremendously to only delivering about 50 over million in terms of profits to SPH. So, is SPH a value trap or a value investment? Leave your comment sections below. Does it have the potential to become like a Microsoft to really, invest and transform its business? Leave your comments in the sections below. I'll be keen to hear from you. But as to the second part, as to transform its business, Microsoft has done it very differently. They've invested into the core business, unlike SPH, which seems to be like a passive investor. So again, that's my sharing. I hope it's helped you in certain ways. With that, smash or subscribe. I'll see you in a future video. Take care and goodbye.